Hi there, ladies, gentlemen. How are you all? I hope all of you are doing well as usual. So, I have started working on the CIMA strategic case study exam. As you know, I just started last week, and based on the emails and based on the discussions I had with my potential candidates, uh, one of the key areas that I thought was regularly touched on is how do you prepare? Right? How do I prepare? What approach do I take to prepare? And because I know that there are so many self-studying students, right? I'm aware that there are many self-studying students who are using my YouTube channel and other sort of free content out there, right, to prepare for the exam. I wanted to make this discussion available to you as well, where we look at the risks or the mistakes that you must be avoiding when you're preparing for the strategic case study exam of the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants competitive exam set. Let's take a look. So the mistakes and risks to avoid when you prepare for the CIMA SCS exam, the first one is not revising the prescribed learning content. This is extremely critical, and the idea is that you have to walk into the exam as a competent individual. You know why? Because CIMA takes this very seriously. Imagine for CIMA that if you enter the qualification and if you want to complete, right, what happens is CIMA would make you a graduate and give you these letters. The end game is becoming an ACMA and CGMA. You become an associate member of the Chartered Institute of Management Accountant, and now you also get that designation CGM, a Chartered Global Management Accountant, which is issued by the combined body of CIMA and AICPA, which is the association. The AICPA is the Institute of Chartered Professional Accountants, AICPA. So for CIMA, it's very important that they have the best, highest quality graduates out there. This is one reason they have all these CFO routes and the gateway routes and all these different routes, because they want to recruit very senior, very experienced personnel into their qualification. So most of the candidates I work with are from all these various different senior level routes, right? The CFO level route, the gateway routes, etc. So what CIMA expects from you is, if you are supposed to be a graduate, you have to have the knowledge, the prescribed knowledge that CIMA assigns to any graduate, any potential graduate who takes the exam. In which case, they're basically expecting their graduates to be heavily competent. Professional competence and due care is one key area among the 5 core ethical principles of CIMA. This directly relates to that. They will not allow a graduate, their reviewers, their examiners will not allow a graduate who is incompetent to become an ACMA. That's the fundamental game there. That is why it is extremely important to revise the prescribed learning content properly, so that you express to the reviewers, express to the examiners that you are a competent individual. The second one is not ensuring that an all-around approach is applied. The idea is that you have to be complete. So there are multiple angles to think about this from. One is, even in terms of the knowledge aspect, there is E3, organizational behavior, organizational ecosystem strategy, etc. Finance, F3, that is financing strategy, and P3, risk management. Without having an all-around view, without having an all-around approach, being competent in equal terms across the 3 areas, it is very, very difficult to pass this exam. In fact, this is where the core activities of CIMA comes in. If you know, for the strategic case study exam, the core activities are 5. There are 5. Number 1, strategy. Number 2, ecosystem. Number 3, financing. Number 4, controls. And number 5, risk. You have to, because even their marking and grading is equally allocated across the 5 core activities. So it is imperative, it is extremely important that you prepare yourself in a complete sense, in an overall sense, in a 360-degree sense. You have to be a complete business professional. Back then, in the 2015 syllabus, SEMA used to do this very beautifully with four competencies. We used to call them business acumen, leadership, etc., etc. They've translated that into the core activities now. And on top of this, even when you consider preparing for the case study exam, you have to take a complete approach. That is, you have to know you have to have the knowledge, you have to be very thorough with the pre-scene, and you have to have written the final presentation. The way you present your examiner's answer, the writing aspect also has to be really well done. If not, your chances of passing this exam are very low. That is why it is a key risk that you must avoid in not ensuring that an all-round approach is applied. So please make sure that you definitely have an intention and prepare yourself through a 360-degree view. Be complete in your prep. The third one is repeating the same mistakes. The idea is self-evaluation. To what extent do you self-evaluate? Now, when it comes to this idea, why I refer to it as self-evaluate and why self-evaluation is important is because mostly this relates to anyone who takes the exam again, right? Repeaters. And I have worked with members, learning partners who have repeated the exam several times over. And even last time, right, I worked with about 3 individuals. Before that, about 5. And when I was working with them, I realized that for some reason, the key cause of why they had to fail again and again was because there was no course correction. Right? They didn't correct themselves. There was actually the sad thing was there was no real guidance, no proper guidance with respect to how to course correct. That is where I was able to support many. So you need to ensure that if something had gone wrong, it's okay, right? You know that competitive exams, these are professional exams, and you do it with a lot of commitments, with a lot of other work, your job, your family, your career, your other educational commitments, maybe certain unexpected things. All of these things can come into play. So for various reasons, you might fail an exam. That's okay, right? You move on, you fail, you move on. Sure. But when you attempt a new attempt, right? For example, let's say you failed last time and you're taking the exam this iteration in May. One of the key things that you must avoid is to not repeat any mistakes you've done last time. That is where self-evaluation comes in. You need to figure out what went wrong. Why did I fail? What was the reason? Was my knowledge poor? Was my writing poor? How exactly was it poor? Didn't I understand the examiner? Don't I understand the strategic case study game? Don't I know how to play it? These things you must ask yourself. Right now, in my coaching program, it is one area that I heavily touch on, especially to support, because of my very personalized approach, especially to support those who are repeating the paper. But regardless, whether you work with a coach or a lecturer or a tutor, or whether you work with yourself, whether you're a self-study student, especially another point where you can touch on self-evaluation and eliminating repetition of mistakes is when you repeat mocks, when you do iterations of mocks. You do the first mock, you get a review done, you see what went wrong, not the what. The more important thing is why did you write it that way? Why did you go wrong? You figure that out and then you correct yourself in the second mock. Then you correct yourself in the third mock. And then you go for the exam. You're pretty good because you only need to get 55. That is why very, very, very important to ensure that you do not repeat any mistakes whatsoever to the maximum possible extent. And there is always that degree of flexibility. You do your best, you give your best to not repeat mistakes. In fact, you can check out my personal development playlist. There is a video where I talk about the biggest mistake in your life. Well, in my opinion, the biggest mistake one can make in their lives is repeating a mistake. We can make mistakes, but we need to aspire to reduce repetition of mistakes. That's the idea here. The fourth one is taking things for granted. So please The idea is manage overconfidence. Now, this might not relate to everyone, this particular idea, overconfidence, right? But I have seen plenty of times, I worked with members who have come to me because they failed and they realized, they themselves have told me that they took it too easy. They thought that they could do it, right? This especially happens in sometimes in the senior level, senior executive routes, where you come in and you're pretty confident. Maybe you finished an MBA, and you're pretty confident of how, but CIMA is its own game. They are very unique. They have very high standards. They're pretty up there. They do a really good job. One reason why I like to associate myself with CIMA, they have a very high standard. Because of that, you have to really understand their game. You need to stay on the ground and figure this thing out, right? However capable you are, however, perhaps you're the world's best writer, you need to manage your overconfidence if you are, right? Be confident, not overconfident, right? Too much of anything is good for nothing anyway. So be confident, manage it, don't be overconfident. Just make sure that you don't take anything for granted, that you prepare yourself properly toward the exam and then do the exam. You pass, you move on, you never look back at CIMA ever again. That's the game, right? So don't be overconfident. The next one is the other side of things, right? The other extreme, where you take things too seriously. So the idea is you need to manage the stress. Now, while I said that CIMA is its own game, they have very high standards, it's not difficult if you play it smart. And the examiner is playing smart with you, right? So you need to play it back in a smart manner. So it's not difficult. And let me remind you, the pass mark is 55%, not 80%. You don't have grade pressures where you need to get an A plus or A or B minus or whatever. You don't have class pressures like degrees, first class, honors, all these, right? You don't have all these pressures. There is one number you're chasing, 55. That's it. Which means that you have 45 to let go of, right? 45, come on. And so don't think of it like you have to get 55. Think of it like, my goodness, out of 100, I cannot get 45. Almost half. I can just let it go. So in that sense, don't be overconfident, but don't take this too seriously. I've seen multiple cases where you deep dive into this and you kind of obsess over certain matters. Sometimes I've seen situations where about a year ago, right? Now in my coaching program, see, I'm very straightforward, right? I tell you at the outset, this is how you need to do it. Sometimes, I've worked with members who have been obsessing over the minutiae of the little details, right? That the examiner doesn't really care about too much. And one word in the pre-scene, one mistake, one small typo in the pre-scene, sometimes you get entangled in these things. You don't need to. Be cool, be chill, don't take things way too seriously. Get support. Maybe you can work with someone else who is working toward the exam. Maybe you can work with someone like me. Rather, well, as far as a coach is concerned, you can work with me, or you can work, either way. Even if you're a self-study student, just be cool, be calm. You can do this. Because you can do this, only you're here, or else you wouldn't be here. Therefore, just don't be overconfident, don't be less confident either. Don't take things too seriously. Manage your stress carefully. The next one is letting prep work pile up till the last minute. The idea is to limit procrastination. Why? Because that can be a very dangerous thing, especially with respect to the strategic case study exam. You know why? Because of the writing part. Now, for example, if you take my coaching program, how it's designed is where the first month, this month, for example, is dedicated, committed, as I'm recording this, upcoming iteration is May. So April is dedicated to all the analysis, all the reading, all the knowledge and all the content matters. And the month of May is completely, fully dedicated to writing. So if you procrastinate in the first part of things, right? If you procrastinate when you're about your studying, about the knowledge acquisition, research, pre-scene analysis, what will happen is you're pushing it forward to the time where you need to get writing done. If you don't have time to get the writing done properly, writing is it's not as simple as it sounds. So, and you can't, especially if you're someone who hasn't done a lot of writing work, it means that you can't, just immediately in your first iteration sit down and do a 3-hour mock. Can't do it. You have to slowly build into it, right? It needs to be gradual, which means you need time, and CIMA gives you plenty of time to do this. You need to manage it properly. So please fairly, at least commit a minimum of 5 hours every week. Start with that. It will get to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. As the exam is closer, you'll do about 12 hours of weekly work. That is more than enough if you do it properly in that manner. So please limit procrastination. If you have a target, complete it. Now, for example, if you have a target saying, okay, next iteration, I'm going to finish this. I've been dragging this way too long. I don't need to. This is an unnecessary baggage I'm carrying in my life. If you decide that, just give it your all, do the work, put in your best effort. You will pass. I already told you 55, just 55, right? You will pass. Just get it done. Okay, right. Then we have this point, not understanding the examiner's expectations. This is very, very important. The idea is you need to be tactical. It's strategy, it's how you play anything smart. What you have to do is, this is why you have to understand, you have to go through the blueprint, or get someone's help, guidance, proper guidance, because you need to understand what the examiner is expecting. That's why I always say you might be the world's best writer, you might be the world's best strategist, right? You might be the world's best orator, right? I don't know. You might assume certain things about yourself that would even feed into your overconfidence. But the issue is, here, none of that matters. In the case study exam, this is an exam, right? It's not your life. And it's important. You need to pass this. You need to move on with your life, right? Do more important matters. Then you need to get this done. How do you get this done? By satisfying the examiner, right? How do you satisfy the examiner? By understanding what the examiner wants. If you understand what the examiner wants, this is related to, this is relevant to any exam. It's basically how I've dealt with all the exams in my life, right? I have been someone, in my personal experience, who has worked very less academically, but has maintained good grades continuously, right? Even, pushed in a couple of world prizes here and there, because the way I approach exams, and perhaps this is why my coaching program, my lectures work so well for so many, is because I try to understand the examiner. What does the examiner want? And I give that to you. I tell you that. Then it clicks. Oh, right, this is what I need to give the examiner. When it clicks, you just give it to them. They're happy. They give you the marks. You pass. You move on. So how do you do this? By being tactical. Isn't that how you deal with strategy, right? Customer, and if you're a business strategist, if you are working in the corporate sector, you're frontline, what do? You think about the customer. If you're a product development manager, what do? You think about the customer. What does the customer want? Here, in this case, think that the examiner is your customer. The examiner is your customer. What does only in this case, you're paying the customer, not the other way around. But if you figure that out, if you think of the examiner as your customer and you ask the question, what does that customer want? And you figure it out and you give it to them, they're going to make you pass. It's a done deal. No need to worry about anything after that. And just submit your PER, get your membership, move on with your life. So please make sure that you avoid any kind of not understanding the examiner's expectations. Be smart, be tactical, play it tactically. There is enough material out there to give you these tactics. If you're working with me, by default, you anyway get these tactics. And finally, along with the tactical element comes not practicing and improving on your writing. Not practicing and improving on your writing. Tactically, that is also very important, because just plain writing won't work, blogging won't work. There is a kind of language, it has to be professional, there are certain rules. You can check out my critical tips on writing videos on this if you want, and even work with me if you are interested. Work with me on mocks and get reviews done from the mocks. What you need to do is basically ensure that you commit time to practice and improve on your writing work. How do you do this? Write, write, and write. That's the game. Write, write, and write. I told you the second month of my coaching program is completely dedicated to writing, improving your writing. We start from a baseline, we keep improving stage by stage. Regardless of that, even if you are working on your writing on your own, I would rather actually recommend you getting some help. Right? There are multiple platforms. You can get my support, my help. Just make sure that you commit time to doing mocks. Start with maybe singular tasks. Read examiner past variants, and that can help. Don't overdo it, because your pre-scene is very unique for whatever iteration you're sitting for. So it will have very unique cases, unique situations, so you need to address those. So don't overdo it, but utilize the content, it's available, utilize it smartly, properly, and commit yourself to then writing mocks. Do not ever walk into the exam without having practicing your writing. You have to minimum, I'm telling you, you have to have done at least 2 mocks. You have to have done it. If not, you're taking a major risk. Right? So please don't do that. I don't want, I keep repeating this, I don't want anyone to make CIMA richer than they need to be. They make plenty of money off of you, off of us. So we just need to make sure that we use all the tools that are available. We help each other, we support each other, we guide each other, we share our experiences, and we pass this exam and then move on. Right? In order to do that, one of the most fundamental things I remind you again is make sure that you improve, that you practice and improve on your writing work. Write, write, and write, and write, and write. That's the game. So here you go. These are the key mistakes or risks that you need to avoid when you prepare for the CIMA SCS exam. Be competent, be complete, self-evaluate yourself, manage your overconfidence, manage your stress levels, limit any kind of procrastination. Limit, okay? I know it's very difficult to eliminate, but limit. Be tactical, and make sure that you commit yourself to the writing improvement activity. Write, write, and write. Those are my 2 cents with my experience with CIMA for over a decade on what you need to avoid and what you need to do in order to pass the CIMA strategic case study exam as far as your preparation is concerned. So I know that this will help you. I know that if you take this to heart, that you can do a good job, that you can avoid so many errors, so many mistakes. One of the biggest things that a lot of students lack is the right guidance. This will be one of those primary guiding videos. I know this, so I hope it helps. Happy learning, ladies and gentlemen. I will probably see you around at some point. The world is a small place. Write to me, let me know what you think. You can also even connect with me. My company, my firm is AZB Education. You can connect with me through LinkedIn, check out my YouTube channel, Instagram and Facebook. And let's keep building a better world together as far as management education excellence, which is what I'm pursuing, is concerned. So thank you very much for being with me. Thank you very much for all the support you have shown me, the kindness, the grace that you have given me, the love. It is immense and it is very overwhelming, and I'm humbled and I'm thankful. So thank you all. Thank you very much. I wish you the best. Good luck, and see you around.